Hey investor friends, I'm Michelle Markey, and today I'm going to talk about the differences and the commonalities between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA. And in this video I'm also going to talk about who it's for, what it is, where do you get one, when should you start investing in it, how do you get it, and why should you invest in these types of tax-advantaged individual retirement plans. So let's get started. The who. This type of plan, whether it's a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, and there are several other kinds of retirement plans available, but these are intended for American citizens. And you need to be someone who has generated earned income. And this is someone who has either earned wages, like at a job, or made money through a business or a farm. And the type of money that you use for this are money from your wages or from your business, not from investments. So you wouldn't be able to contribute any earnings you had from, say, stock investments into your Roth or traditional IRA accounts. And what are they? A traditional IRA is a tax-advantaged retirement plan where you contribute pre-tax dollars and you get a tax break up front. So you can grow the money in investments like stocks or mutual funds, index funds, or ETFs, and you get taxed when you're in retirement on what you earned in this traditional IRA. And you're actually required to have a minimum distribution when you reach age 72. And this is one of the first differences between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. You don't have a required minimum distribution or RMD with a Roth IRA. And a Roth IRA is also a tax-advantaged retirement plan where you contribute after-tax dollars from your earned income, and it can grow tax-free, and you can withdraw it when you're in retirement tax-free, and that has its own sets of benefits. So with traditional IRA, remember, it's a tax break up front, and with the Roth IRA, you get a tax break later. And with both of these kinds of IRA accounts, you can contribute up to $6,000 a year if you're under 50, and you contribute another $1,000 on top of that if you're over 50, so you can contribute a maximum of $7,000 per year if you're 50 and over. And both of these types of IRAs can have advantages and disadvantages depending on your situation. And if you need specific help related to your situation, please consult with a financial advisor who has a fiduciary duty to help you. And that just means that someone who actually has a responsibility to the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission to help you. And one of the differences with a traditional IRA and Roth is that until recently, you had an age limit where you could contribute to in a traditional IRA. And with a law that changed last year, now you're able to contribute regardless of your age to a traditional IRA as well. And that's one benefit, so that it has leveled the playing field for both of these types of accounts recently. And you can't contribute more than $6,000 to all of your IRA accounts combined per year. So for example, you could contribute $3,000 to a Roth IRA and another $3,000 to a traditional IRA if you want in a tax year, but you can't contribute $6,000 to each of them for a total of $12,000 over the course of one tax year. So just make sure you contribute amounts that add up to $6,000 total if you're under 50. And most of the examples I'm going to use in this video are for people under 50. And speaking about people under 50, you can open a Roth IRA or traditional IRA if you're a teenager, as long as you have a parent or guardian holding a custodial account for you. And when you turn 18, you could transition that in your name and fully legally be responsible for your own IRA account. So with a teenager, if you've earned income, let's say you work at a coffee shop or lifeguarded like I did when I was a teenager, you could be opening and contributing up to the maximum contribution limits per year as early as then. And I definitely recommend that people start as early as possible. This kind of also answers a little bit of the why should we start investing and why should we pick these kinds of accounts. Like I said, these are tax advantage, so you end up owing less over time to the US government and the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, if you take advantage of these types of retirement accounts that are specifically designed to help the everyday American save up for retirement. So I recommend getting started as early as you can. I started personally when I was 18. That's when I realized I could open my own IRA account, and I kind of wish I'd started earlier, but it's okay. It worked out. To answer the where and how you can open a Roth and traditional IRA, there are common brokerage firms, or also known as broker-dealers, where you can have these investment accounts, and some of them include Fidelity, E-Trade, Vanguard, TD Ameritrade, and Charles Schwab. But both TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab are actually merging, so soon there will be a little bit less competition for some of these brokerage firms. And some of the how: you would set up your bank account to transfer money from your bank that you have a checking account at, and move contributions from your bank to your brokerage firm account for these type of IRAs. And if you want to contribute to a traditional IRA, you would set it up so that you contribute pre-tax dollars. So before the money from your company in your biweekly salary, let's say, before that money hits your bank account, it can get routed to be contributed directly to your brokerage firm to qualify as pre-tax dollars. Whereas with a Roth IRA, you would contribute after-tax dollars. So that's where you would move money from your bank account to your Roth IRA. And some of these brokerage firms, they used to charge for if you invested in certain types of securities like stocks and index funds, and you would be charged, when I first was starting out, anywhere from $6.95 to $8.95 per transaction. And some of that gradually went down over the years that I've been investing. So it went down as low as $4.95 before up-and-coming startup investment companies like Robinhood added pressure to this industry. And just last year, in October 2019, the bigger firms gave in to that pressure, and brokerage firms like Charles Schwab reduced their commissions from $4.95 down to $0 per transaction. So you can actually invest in any stock or fund that you're interested in for zero commissions. So that's actually pretty great for the American who's needing to save for retirement, and I highly recommend folks take advantage of the zero commissions at most of the popular or common brokerage firms. And last, to answer some of the why, I'm going to get into a little bit more details in a spreadsheet I'll show you. But why we should even care about a traditional or Roth IRA is because we need to have money saved up in retirement to afford our healthcare, living, and travel expenses. Because if we stop working and we don't have earned income coming in from a job, it's going to be difficult to survive in our older ages. So having a retirement account, especially these types where you can invest freely in stocks and index funds or other kinds of securities, this gives you the opportunity to save and be able to use money when you need it. To get into a little bit more detail of what I said earlier in this video of why it's so important to start investing as early as possible in life, let's say at age 16, your parent or guardian opened a custodial account for your traditional and/or Roth IRA, and you started contributing the maximum per tax year at $6,000 a year, and investing at the average growth rate of the American stock market throughout a majority of its history. You could see that compounding this over time, by age 52, or after about 37 years of investing, you would reach $1 million if you were growing at the average rate. And that's pretty great if you only need $1 million to retire at age 52 and cover the rest of your life expenses. If not, you could keep working and contributing every year to your IRA accounts, and by age 73, have a nest egg of about $4.6 million and retire at that time with hopefully a comfortable amount of money saved in your investments in one or both of these kinds of IRAs or other kinds of retirement vehicles. Compare that to trying to invest starting at age 30, and we similarly take a yearly contribution of $6,000 until we're 50, and then we increase it to $7,000. And if you follow along, you would need to wait until age 66 to get to a similar $1 million. So that's a difference of 14 years that it takes you longer to reach $1 million. And then if you want to get to $4.4 million, it will take you to age 86 to get to a similar amount that you could have been at age 73 if you had started earlier in life. So if you take anything away from the value of a Roth and traditional IRA, just know that they give you tax advantages to incentivize you to save earlier in life. And some of the points here in this column, I'm not necessarily going to read out all of them, but just know that if you contribute to a Roth IRA, your modified adjusted gross income can only be below certain amounts to do the maximum contribution. Otherwise, your contributions start being phased out if you earn between $124,000 to $137,500. So it goes down by about 10% at certain tiers. If you earn $124,000, you can only contribute $600 less than the maximum, so $5,400. Whereas if you reach around $137,500 of income at a single tax filing, you would only be able to contribute $600. And then if you earn over $139,000, you won't be able to contribute to a Roth IRA anymore. And a few summarizing points. A Roth IRA is helpful if you want to pay taxes when you're younger, and presumably you're in a lower tax bracket at that time than in a higher tax bracket when you're retired, and you can enjoy tax-free withdrawals in retirement. A traditional IRA is helpful if you want to pay taxes when you are in retirement and presumably in a lower tax bracket at that point than when you were younger and earning a higher amount of salary and you were in a higher tax bracket when you were younger. So keep these tips in mind. And just a few last notes. Typically, an IRA account can contain financial investments in stocks, index or mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, ETFs, bonds, and other kinds of investments or assets. And just pay attention to, if you're under age 59 and a half, that you may also have to pay an additional 10% tax for early withdrawals unless you qualify for an exception, of which there are a few notable ones. So please keep that in mind when it comes to your IRA accounts. And pay attention to required minimum distributions. That might be a factor in your life. And if you want to learn more, please check out the IRS's website to learn more about traditional and Roth IRAs. Thanks for watching. If you learned something or enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And if you still have questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. And I wish you well in your retirement savings. And until next time,